Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties, education, and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Barber, Director of Cultural Affairs for Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
What's it like to be the man in the middle of the George W. Bush White House? We're going to find out today on Faith and Freedom. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action, in today for Matt Staver. And again, our guest again today is Tim Goeglein. Tim is the VP for External Relations with Focus on the Family based in Washington, D.C., a senior fellow with the Heritage Foundation, and for 8 years was a special assistant to President George W. Bush in Washington, D.C., and the White House. And Tim, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Matt. It is great to be here.
Well, enjoyed our conversation yesterday talking about your book. Again, the book is The Man in the Middle. It's an inside account of faith and politics in George W. Bush, in the George W. Bush era. It can be found on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, all of the major bookstores across the country. And Tim, yesterday we talked a little bit about some of your personal experiences in the White House. You broke the book down into three separate parts. What are those three parts that you break the book down into?
The first part of the book is my nearly 8 years in the White House and my very strong sense of the president's character, who he is, how to understand him, and many of the most important achievements of the Bush administration. The second part of the book delves into what were the greatest influences and mentors in my life, from long friendships with Bill Buckley and Russell Kirk to the works of G.K. Chesterton, Hilaire Belloc, and T.S. Eliot. And the third part of the book is the essence and elemental sense of what is American conservatism. Why it is the right set of ideas for America. And very importantly, Matt, I closed the book in a chapter called The Coming American Renaissance. I'm not a declinist. I believe that decline is a choice. Count me out. I'm an inclinist. And I'm not a cockeyed optimist. We have real problems in America, but our best days are ahead. And I believe that we will have a rebirth in America because faith and politics, faith and public life, the essence of what's really important, which is culture and not politics. In fact, I believe, as I say in the book, that politics is downstream from culture. That I believe that America is, as Michael Novak said, a religious republic. Mm-hmm. We are not Western Europe.
Right.
And better days are ahead.
Well, let's focus a little bit on the first part of the book. I know we did that yesterday as well. The book is doing very well, and I think it's opening a lot of eyes, and I think it defies conventional wisdom in that the mainstream media and opponents of George W. Bush created this narrative that does not track with the real man. Tell us about the real man, that George W. Bush, your experiences in the White House and experiences working with such heavy policies and national and international implications working in that kind of environment.
There's a historian, a conservative one, Rick Brookhiser, who's a friend of mine. He's done a series of very important books on the founders and presidents who were founders. His most recent book is Madison, which is just a phenomenal book. Rick Brookhiser at one point said you can buy stock in the Bush presidency because it's going to rise. And I think he's exactly right. To go back to your question, during the 8 years of the Bush administration, there's no doubt that if you mix in the war, the second war, Katrina, TARP, the stimulus package, etc., if you wrap all those in, you could be George W. Bush or George Washington, and you would have to conclude that regardless of who's the president, those were 8 fraught years. Unfortunately, there were people of influence and power who created, as you say, a narrative. It was a false narrative.
Right.
It was a truly false narrative that somehow this was a failed president, a failed presidency, etc. There is not a single metric that bears that out. In the most high-wire presidential election since 1800, between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, George W. Bush won. He didn't win because the Supreme Court said we're deciding. The Supreme Court determined, based on the facts, not opinions, that George W. Bush was the winner. But I say that, Matt, because it got the administration off on a strange footing. And George W. Bush made a promise and a pledge. He said, I'm going to keep it on a high plane. And he did. That meant that for many years thereafter, in the savage attacks on the president, not just on policies, but on his personal character and integrity, he kept his pledge and often did not lower himself to his critics. Mm-hmm. Now, I talk at length in The Man in the Middle about his character and integrity. But I also talk at length in this book about measurable metric achievements. Mm-hmm. A very great American, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, yes, a liberal, yes, a Democrat, a very great senator, once said that everyone is entitled to his own opinions, but not everyone's entitled to his own facts.
Right.
And as you say, there is an early revision of the Bush administration going on. People are now 3 years apart from that are saying, I want to go back and really visit who was this man and what did he do? And in this book I show George W. Bush categorically, without peer, was the most pro-life, pro-marriage, pro-religious liberty, mm-hmm. pro-individual conscience president in the contemporary presidency. His elevation of John Roberts to our Chief Justice of the United States.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yes. Sam Alito as
mm-hmm.
our Associate
Two
Justice.
Of his signature achievements, really. His legacy will, I think, to appoint two strict constructionist constitutionalists to the Supreme
right.
Court like that with the original vision of our founding fathers cannot be understated.
Absolutely right. And I think that the greatest achievement of any conservative president is to keep a pledge, as George W. Bush did when he was asked in 1999 and 2000, if you're elected, tell us the models that you will use on the Supreme Court. And he repeatedly said 2 words, Scalia, Thomas. He kept his promise. George W. Bush also was the most pro-life president. Mm-hmm. This is very important. He signed a ban on partial birth abortion after Bill Clinton had vetoed that ban twice. Jerry Falwell was at the White House and at that signing. That was a truly great day, not for George W. Bush. It was a great day for life.
Yes.
And as you know, Matt, in all the courts thereafter, this decision of the president's was challenged. Without exception, George W. Bush was tireless in supporting that view in the courts. The sanctity of marriage, the only amendment to the Constitution that he ever supported was one confirming marriage between a man and a woman. And the president kept another promise. He said that if he was elected, that he was concerned about the Defense of Marriage Act. He was concerned that it would be
sure.
henpecked, and he was right. And he's been confirmed. Here we are in 2011 or 2012, and in these pivotal years, the president's been confirmed.
Well, what a contrast we have now with the current administration. We only have a couple minutes left, but talk real quickly about that contrast on life, on marriage, on religious liberty, on these transcendent principles.
In 2008, Barack Obama adopted President Bush's language on marriage. President Obama said that his view was that marriage was a sacred institution between a man and a woman. As recently as a few months ago, the president said his view was evolving. Mm-hmm. Now, this is very important in light of the fact that this administration has worked overtime in opposition to the Defense of Marriage Act. It's not just that they have a different opinion, but in American jurisprudence, when the United States Congress votes on an issue and makes it the law of the land, it should not be up to a president to pick and choose what's the law and what is not.
Unilaterally and arbitrarily declare
right.
it unconstitutional.
Absolutely right. And this administration has really, when it comes to marriage, but also to the sanctity of every human life, this president has worked overtime in opposition to the right to life. And this is a very disturbing trend. The bottom line is that the Obama administration, unlike the Bush administration, has been hostile to traditional marriage, hostile to the sanctity of life, and hostile to our religious liberty, not in opinions, but in fact.
Well, you folks, you see the bumper stickers "Miss Me Yet" with the face of President George W. Bush. I think a lot of people do miss the president. The book is The Man in the Middle, an inside account of faith and politics in the George W. Bush era. The author is Timothy S. Gagline. And Tim, thanks again for coming on, and we look forward to having you as a guest the rest of the week.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's truly great to be here.
Well, folks, stay tuned for tomorrow's edition of Faith and Freedom as we delve into the second part of the book, The Man in the Middle, on Faith and Freedom.
You have been listening to Matt Barber of Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.